What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about when Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will release. Now, I know this is a stretch. This is years in advance. I'm really stretching even my ability as a human being on this channel, right, making all of the predictions as I do. But I do, I love making these kind of videos, and I think this is something that we could revisit almost yearly to say, okay, what's really changed? But I want to give people, because we're talking about this game, we've had a lot of fun talking about it. I'm going to be continuing talking about it weekly. But the question really even that comes to my mind every time I talk about it is, okay, how long are we going to have to go until we see the next piece of info, before we see a gameplay thing, a new trailer, and before we ultimately get the game? So I want to try and figure out what Warner Bros. Timeline is. Really quickly, though, if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, please do it. A lot of people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed, which is normally fine, but we're getting very, very close to 40,000, and I really want to hit that mark. So red button right underneath the video. Same thing for all of my other social medias. We're actually getting very close on a lot of different things. Discord, Twitter, if you guys haven't followed me there, Podcast Now 15. My Discord link is in the description below, and I have a second channel, Podcast Now Plus. If you guys haven't subscribed there, please do that as well. All right, let's talk about this. So, look, we talked about when's the next time we're going to hear about this game, and as I've said in the past, I think, Gotham Knights kind of needs to, come, do its thing, and then leave, and then we'll get more Suicide Squad. The thing is, Rocksteady, much like even Warner Bros. Montreal, they're both being very, very shy with what was actually going on in their studios for, the longest time. There's no doubt in my mind that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was not the first thing that Rocksteady made after Arkham Knight, okay? I'm sure they were working on we know a few things they were working on, but I'm sure there were quite a few canceled projects in that studio before they maybe they had this brilliant idea of Suicide Squad. So I don't think this game was in development the entire time. In fact, even Jason Schreier, formerly of Kotaku, now of Bloomberg, he even said he thinks this game was made somewhere around, now he said even 2017, maybe even 2018. So let's say around the halfway point of 2017. So they've been making this game around 3 years. Could they finish this game by 2022? I think obviously there's a reason why they gave that year. The issue is that is a very long time, and a lot of things can happen in 2 years. But generally, look, when you start up a game, you do have a time frame. In terms of a year. If you think that the game is going to take you only 4 years, you would probably know that very early on. You're not going to make a game, say, like GTA, and say, well, maybe we can complete it in 2 years, maybe it'll be 8 years. We'll just kind of make it, and then we'll figure out how long it takes as we're taking that time. That never, ever happens. So them saying 2022, I think, obviously they have a lot of confidence that in another 2 years they can complete it. Again, if they've already worked on it for 3, then you add 2 more to it, 4 next-gen consoles. I think that's a slam dunk. Really, to me, it just matters when in 2022. And it does get a little difficult because bottom line is Warner Bros. Games is like an entity, right? And they have to worry about how much money they're producing and the products that they're coming out with every single year, just like anybody, like Ubisoft, like EA, and then even like the big boys in Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, okay? 2022, so you look at 2021, very easy to say, okay, first half, you have Gotham Knights, you have Star Wars, Lego Star Wars, which, by the way, again, is no slouch, no slacker, right? But you have those two. Really, Gotham Knights is your main seller. And then in the fall, you have Hogwarts Legacy. Yes, there'll, again, be other smaller things, and Warner Bros. Can work with other developers as well, have their, have other games being published by them, all that stuff. They'll make their money, but those are the two big games of next year, I guess, again, not counting Lego Star Wars, which if you do, definitely you could, that would be 3. Okay, now you go into 2022. It gets tough because they do have, I believe, they have 7 or 8 studios inside of Warner Bros. So they have a fair amount of teams there. We know that Monolith is working on something. Now, is it a DC game or is it a Middle-earth game? I thought it could have been a DC game. Obviously, there was a lot of rumors that maybe it was going to be a DC game, but really at this point, with kind of the lack of talk about it, and even the job postings, remember we talked about job postings of Monolith, I think that game is most likely a Middle-earth game. I could be wrong. I kind of hope I'm wrong because I would like to see if they can handle like a Superman game or some other game. But as of right now, I would say that game is most likely a Middle-earth game. Will that game come out in 2022? I think it should. It's been actually quite a long time since we've had the last Middle-earth game, and they've kind of gone into hiding. I think it's about time we see a new one. So why do I mention that? Well, that's a 2022 thing. You also have Injustice, which at this point seems, well, look, there are still people that think it can come out in 2021. I'm not one to rain on anybody's parade because I love being excited and coming up with these kind of things, right? So if you think Injustice 3 is coming out in 2021, that's awesome, and I would stand by you. I think 2022 is a little bit more likely, especially with them still supporting Mortal Kombat. I feel like they're just giving themselves an extra year this time around. So if Injustice 3, and that's the big one to me, if Injustice 3 is the springtime, which these games have a very big habit of coming out in the spring, whether it's Injustice or Mortal Kombat, they would come out in the spring, okay, spring of 2022. I've always said that developers try to, or sometimes do, stick with the dates and the months that have worked well for them in the past. So June was Arkham Knight, but June wasn't the other games. Okay, Arkham Asylum, I think, was August, obviously. Arkham City, I don't actually remember when Arkham City, what month that released. It was like September, October. But Arkham Knight definitely, and like I said, you actually kind of normally go by what's most recent. So Arkham Knight, I feel like, is the biggest one to actually look at. Arkham Knight was June. Remember, it was actually going to be September of 2014, and then they delayed it all the way till June of 2015. So that's when it came out. I feel like June is a really, really good time period for that. But then you look at the situation of Warner Bros. And you say, well, if Injustice 3 comes out that spring, maybe they are looking at this game of being more of a fall game. At the end of the day, you're not necessarily going to handicap your studios by saying, hey, we want to space you out. We want one of you to come out here and the other one to come out there. More like, again, just the way of when they develop these games, it tends to kind of all come out. Sometimes for certain games, they may say, okay, you need to hit like the fall period. Like this is the fall game, you need to hit it. So there are definitely deadlines, but you look at even a situation like Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2, they were neck and neck. They were both, they definitely wanted Ghost of Tsushima to come out after. That was obvious. That was about the most obvious thing you could ever imagine for Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us. Last of Us was supposed to come out first, but they were both, ironically, whether or not Sony planned it 3 years ago or 4 years ago, however long you want to say, they were pretty much finished up around the exact same time. So, there's that stuff can't happen. We've seen that with Bethesda before. Bethesda's released games even the same month before, which is not a good idea. You should never do that. In that case, you should, even if the game is done, you should still let it kind of slide just a little bit. Don't let it go like several months, but just a little bit until it comes out. But for Warner Bros., they have a good system. They have a really good system. They know what works. They know, I think, that the springtime works really well for Injustice 3, and I think they know that June is a solid time. But you also have to look at gaming in general. September is a good time. October, November, obviously really, really good times. The summer months, oftentimes kind of like looked down upon. Well, Last of Us came out in June. Ghost of Tsushima came out in July. They both did extremely well. So they can really, and for again, a game like Suicide Squad, game could come out anytime. I think it would honestly do. Again, there are times where I just don't think game, like really early January, late December, obviously no game comes out. Normally, like late July, early August is normally like a dead period, but again, Ghost of Tsushima was sort of in that time this past year, so there's always exceptions. If I were to guess right now, I would my safe guess would be June of 2022. I think that if they wanted to do something really cool, they could say, hey, 7 years after Arkham Knight, in the same, by the way, universe, remember, as Arkham Knight, here's our game. Think that's possible. Think that because June was nice to them before, they may look to that. At the same time, if Injustice comes out that spring, this could be like the big fall game. So if like Hogwarts Legacy is like September, October next year, 2021, I think Suicide Squad could be the September, October of 2022. So that'll be my more bold prediction. But again, very fluid. This is a situation that I think it could be delayed. It could ironically actually be earlier. Maybe it comes out like January or February of 2022. Honestly, there's no concrete way of knowing right now, but it's definitely something we can revisit as the months and ironically, as the years go on. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? When do you think this game is going to release in 2022? Do you think it's a pretty safe year that it's coming out? Make sure you guys are, again, subscribe to this YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. Again, my Twitter, my Discord, my second channel, all in the description below. If you guys want to check that out, would mean a lot to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. New Suicide Squad videos every single week, and I hope to see you guys for the next one.